Now we have the 4 Benelli parts. These are the 2 that have been drying. They're pretty much ready to buff. These 2, I'd like to let them dry a couple more days before I buff them, so I'm going to try to get some of these parts buffed today. So I just want to see, in the first step of any part of buffing out paint, paint will buff out a little bit differently when it's old and when it's soft, I should say. So I want to pick a spot that probably nondescript on the bottom here. Since these 2 panels got painted a while back, these should be pretty much ready to buff. The other ones, again, I know people buff it right away, and yeah, but to get the real nice, really jewel-like shine, I haven't found any substitute other than just, you really have to let it sit for some amount of time anyway. And anyway, we do have the bulk of this day to probably hopefully get at least 1 and maybe 2 panels done, depending on how many other things happen. But this is the part of it that you can't rush. You just can't go zipping through it. Now, even if you had a spray booth and controlled conditions, you'd have a lot less chance there'd be dust in the paint or little flaws or whatever. But you'd still not get the shine that you get when you buff a part out. I haven't found any substitute for it anyway. So step 1 is I want to get this part perfectly flat. Once it's perfectly flat, then I can go through my myriad of products and the 2 different buffing wheels and see which one is going to bring that paint up the quickest. So what I do is when I'm sanding this out, once I get the compound that I'm going to wind up using, a combination of compounds, I try to do this like a checkerboard. This panel would be 1 piece. This piece, or maybe I'll divide it in half. This piece, and the piece in the front, and the edges. If you just go randomly around the whole thing, it just gets too sloppy and confusing. So I really have, what I've done is 2000 grit paper, block sanded this out by hand, which of course is very time consuming. But now I want to try, go into my, well, let's show it. What should I say it? Our bag of compounds and tricks and things that normally if you're using, and this would be the stuff that removes scratches, if you're using rougher than 2000 grit paper, if you're using 1500 say, that's a good choice. But we're going to try, well, I'm going to go right into the bucket and try my, what normally this would come up with some nice gloss relatively quickly. Oh, I'm just going to go right into this. Since this paint is hard, we shouldn't have a lot of problem removing scratches. Now, one of the things a lot of people that are starting this, the first time they buff anything out, so the first problem you run into, and you don't think it's going to be a problem until it becomes a problem. You have to have some way of holding the part. Now, it's really nice if, for instance, you have your best friend who's a helper and always available at the right price. So I need to, I don't want to put it right on the bench. I need to have some support there when I'm doing this. Rolls of paper towels seem to be a good way because you can move them around. You can find some way of putting some pressure. You don't want to lean on it like you're drilling an oil well or anything, but when you try to hold it in your hand or put it on a flat, it just gets very, very cumbersome. And again, the thing with buffing is it's really an art, not a science. Every batch of paint under different shop conditions dries just a little differently. Different compounds work differently at different hardnesses. This is just a good general medium compound, and I want to do an initial cut just to see. And a lot of people put the material on the part. I don't think it matters at all, as long as you get some of it on there. But anyway, and we got our $15 buffer, which will probably wear out at least 1 buffer in the course of doing 4 fairings. So the best thing is, and you never want to just hold it in one spot. You want to kind of move it around slowly, find some little spot. The compound will eventually dry, and this is what will happen. I just wanted to show what, now at some point in time this is going to dry. It's going to take a few minutes, but you're going to see it'll just dry up. And when you think it's dry, you could just take the slightest amount of, that's just ordinary water or Windex or whatever. And that rejuvenates. You can buy Rejuvenator for the compounds. You can use water. It doesn't seem to make a big difference to me, and I've done a lot of this. An awful lot, in fact. Now, once that starts to dry, and it's pretty obvious when it dries, it takes maybe 5 minutes. I'm not going to let the camera run because you're probably bored already. But you pretty much get used to seeing what this looks like. And at some point in time, then take a clean microfiber, wipe it dry, and see what kind of progress you're making. And these buffers, by the way, they do wear out at some point in time. They're about $15 in Harbor Freight. It just takes an incredible amount of time just to get this detailed out, but I'm going to guess we're only going to get one panel done today, but it'll be worth it. Now that paint, because it's been sitting there for a while, that paint is coming up very, very nice. When you're dealing with really soft paint, only a few days old, it just takes forever. It still comes up, but it could be forever. Now I try to pick another spot and get it up on the paper towels. And what I'll do, as I said, making a checkerboard, get this all block sanded flat, and then go through the rough scratch removal compound and the fine compound. And just having the two buffers just makes not having to change the pad very convenient. But you can see the part that we've already got buffed out really came out nice. Super nice. It's always, again, I'm just little tricks that I've learned. It's always easy to do this one section at a time. If you just start going randomly, again, I say that 100 times. If you get one section at a time done, we got that side done, we get this side done. It may be that we're only going to get one section done today, but I want to be just not doing this randomly and wasting time. The time is valuable here because it takes a lot of time to do this. This is a time-insensitive thing. This is the point at which just having some way to hold this, the paper towels make it a little bit easier. And whenever you load another trick, and I'm trying to pass on tricks here, tips, tricks, whatever, always put plenty of the material around the edge of the pad. Because the edge of the pad, in the case of a corner, is doing a lot of the work. Now this part here was really labor intensive because it's flat and has a nice curve to it. I really wanted to get out every little speck of dust that's in that paint. And we're ready. We're definitely ready for the buffing on that. This is just, yeah, it's hard to explain to people. There's nothing here but labor. It's like digging a hole with a shovel. And it's a deep hole. Oh, we're coming down a home stretch here, and this is really starting to look nice. Now once I have what I think is most of the flaws and scratches out, and to put that final little polish on, there's a good little trick I've used in the past. I get a dedicated pad. I don't want to use the same one I use for compound. I have a dedicated pad to put on Meguiar's Cleaner Wax. Now when Glenn was here, he had that whole selection of Adams products. These are all the things you get from Harbor Freight, and they seem to be, well, maybe not exactly as good if you're, you're really ultra fussy. But I want to keep this pad, has compound on it. I can tell just by, if I forget, I can tell just by sticking your tongue in it. Compound tastes like sand. Anyway, this is one that just has cleaner wax on it. It has nothing else but cleaner wax. And this is the stuff that it's got a little tiny bit of compound in it. So the final thing, because I know Vlad is not going to put this bike together the day he picks it up. He'll probably let it sit in storage for a while. It'll be in his garage or whatever. So I want to protect it. I'll buff it out with the cleaner wax and then by hand put a coat of carnauba wax on. I put the carnauba wax on by hand. This I can put on with the buffer. Now, of course, you could do this while a motorcycle's in one piece or your car, but it is just a little more convenient to get these little angles and edges when it's out in the open. Now, the last step on this, Meguiar's Carnauba wax, and that should protect it if it's in storage for any length of time. It leaves that nice shine. But here's the thing I always like to do. I like to just rub my cheek on it, like a perv or something. But anyway, it is, I'm not sure you can see my picture in it. That's about as much as I'm going to get done today. Today is a very, a very busy day, but I was glad to get one panel done. Next time we get to work on a session, we'll do another panel. So that's basically, as funny as that sounds, 1 down, 3 to go. But this kind of work just takes time. You can't rush it through. You can't go speeding through like a rocket ship. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. Pick something up that's of value to you. And, of course, thanks for watching.